Murder on the Orient Express is a film that I should have reviewed a while ago. It came out almost a month ago now, and I'm finally getting to it. I've been busy with a lot of other shit, as you guys probably know. It's a film that is directed by Kenneth Branagh. You guys might know who Kenneth Branagh is. He is a very famous actor and director. You might know him from directing films like Thor. He also stars in this movie as a very famous detective named Hercule Poirot, I believe is his name. And this thing stars an all-star cast. I mean, look at the talent in this thing. You got Johnny Depp, Daisy Ridley, Josh Gad, Michelle Pfeiffer, Penelope Cruz, Willem Dafoe. I mean, look at that cast. Tell me that's not a Hall of Fame cast right there. This is a murder mystery. This is a murder mystery that takes place on a train. Hercule Poirot, played by Kenneth Branagh, is a world-famous detective, and he's looking for some relaxation. He's looking for some R&R. He's looking to get the hell out of the detective business for a while. So he gets on a train and he tries to head out somewhere where he doesn't have to think about detective shit. But somehow, in the middle of the night on the train, somebody mysteriously is killed. And there's kind of an avalanche that stops the train in its tracks, and so he has to put the detective hat back on again, and he has to try to figure out who killed the person and why. And the more he finds out about this case, the more he comes to realize that pretty much everyone on the train is a suspect. I've always appreciated Kenneth Branagh, not just for his acting ability, but the way that he directs his films. I like his style. I like the way he approaches the films that he's directed. The guy always has like a throwback, worn-in feel to his films. I can't really describe it. All I can say is that this film felt very old-fashioned. It felt like an old-fashioned murder mystery. Not even entirely sure when this movie takes place or what century it is. I'm pretty sure it happened before iPhones, though. A lot of over-the-shoulder and overhead shots in this film that give you the perspective of looking over someone's shoulder to see something that they're discovering for the first time. I thought that was a really unique directing choice. I'll also say that all the performances in the movie are really good. Daisy Ridley is really good. She's not given a whole bunch to work with, but she's really good in this movie. Josh Gad was actually pretty good. Johnny Depp was really good. Michelle Pfeiffer is probably the one outside of Kenneth Branagh who is the best acting-wise out of anyone else not named Kenneth Branagh. No. The star of this movie, and the reason that I stayed watching till the end, was Kenneth Branagh. This guy nailed the role of Hercule Poirot. I mean, I haven't seen the book or the other movies that came before this movie. I can only judge what I saw in this one. Brilliant. He was really great. I like it when I see people who are listed as the best whatever they are at whatever their job is, and then you see during the movie, oh yeah, this guy actually is the best at what he's supposed to be doing. This guy is listed and talked about like he's the greatest detective since Sherlock Holmes. In the movie, when you see him put his mind to stuff and you see the gears in his brain start to shift, you start to see the dialogue he uses, the rapid fire responses that he starts to give out when he's investigating his clues. It's all really captivating stuff. I'll also say that this movie's biggest strength is also probably its biggest weakness. The film is kind of convoluted in its execution, but that's also a pretty good thing, I think, because this movie did kind of keep me guessing. There are enough twists and turns here to where I wasn't entirely sure where we were going to end up. Don't get me wrong, I had to pay attention to the details in this movie, and I pride myself on being somebody that pays attention to the details in these films. Every time I felt like I was getting close to the answer, and I'd be like, aha! That's the person who did it. The movie would just look at me and be like, no, that's not who did it. You're wrong. And I'd be like, oh. Well, go to hell, movie. There was one point close to the end of the movie where I felt like I nailed it. I felt like I had cracked the case and I had nailed the mystery. I felt like Scooby-Doo there for a second. I was all celebrating and shit in the theater. I stood up. I was like, Scooby-Doo-Doo! The movie threw me another curveball and I didn't know what the hell I was doing. And they took my Scooby snacks, and so you know what happens when Scooby doesn't have Scooby snacks. He just a big old dumb talking dog. Like I said, the biggest strength of this film is its biggest weakness, and that is that the film is a bit convoluted in terms of its delivery. There are a lot of little details that are sped through in this movie. There are a lot of little details that you have to pay attention to, and sometimes there's so many details going by at so fast a pace that it's hard for you to keep track of everything, and so after a while you're just kind of getting confused and bored because you're not really sure how everything fits together until Hercule tells you what's going on. I also think there was some tonal inconsistency in this film. Like, the movie had kind of a lighthearted edge to it. It had some comedic jokes. It had some little goofy moments thrown in there. And normally I'm okay with that. And I was okay with the humor in the movie. There was nothing wrong with that. It's just the movie kind of shifted from that to dark and serious really quick and really suddenly. It was kind of jarring, the tonal shifts in this movie. But the biggest problem that I have with this film is the characters. The characters, again, are played by fine actors, but the characterization in this movie is actually kind of bland and really weak. I'm not saying that I need the backstory on every single tree branch that falls around this train in this movie, but at the same time, I feel like I needed something to make me care or gravitate towards the characters in this movie, and none of the characters in this movie are really all that interesting. All of them are kind of bland and kind of whatever, and the only character that you really care about is the main detective guy. And that's a problem in a murder mystery where you're stuck on a train in a confined space where you feel like you have to be invested in the mystery, but I felt like I didn't really care all that much who did it, because I didn't care about who did it. I didn't care about the people involved in the crime, potentially. And as a result, there were some parts of this movie where I just felt bored, where there was a whole bunch of convoluted details going over my head, and I didn't care because I didn't feel invested enough in the other characters. None of the other characters really get that much to do, unfortunately. Murder on the Orient Express was a fun enough watch. I had a decent enough time watching it. It has some good mystery elements thrown in there when it doesn't get too convoluted, and Kenneth Branagh directs the hell out of this movie, and he also acts his ass off in this movie, but outside of that, I don't really know that I would care to highly recommend this thing. Since the movie is slightly above average, I will give Murder on the Orient Express, Man of Steel, Golden Age. Alright guys, sorry for the late review on Murder on the Orient Express. I've been a bit busy. Stay tuned, I got a lot of good shit coming up on the show this week. Please like and subscribe to the Superfan Show, and as always, if you like what you see, tell me how you feel, and stay tuned to hear more from the Man of Steel. Peace!